Jiyoung's father was the third of four brothers. The eldest died in a car accident before he married, and the second brother immigrated to the United States early on and settled down. The youngest brother and Jiyoung's father had a big fight over inheritance and looking after their mother that led to falling out. The four brothers were born and raised at a time when mere survival was a struggle. As people died, young and old, of war, disease, and starvation, Ko Bong-sun worked someone else's field, peddled someone else's wares, took care of domestic labor at someone else's home, and still managed to run her own home, fighting tooth and nail to raise the four boys. Her husband, a man with a fair complexion and soft hands, never worked a day in his life. Ko Bong-sun did not resent her husband for having neither the ability nor the will to provide her for his family. Resent. Feel bitterness or indignation at circumstance, action, or person. She resented the fact that I had children. Ko Bun-sun did not resent her husband for having neither the ability nor the will to provide for his family. She truly believed he was a decent husband to conforming with generally accepted standards of respectable or moral behavior. She truly believed that he was a decent husband to her for not sleeping around and not hitting her. Of the four sons she raised, thus Jiyoung's father was the only one to carry out his duties as a son in her old age. Unwanted by her ungrateful children, Ko Bong-sun rationalized this sad outcome with an incoherent logic. Still, I get to eat warm food my son made for me, and sleep under warm covers my son arranged for me, because I had four sons. You have to have at least four sons. Incoherent logic. Incoherent. Expressed in an incomprehensible or confusing way. Unclear. He screamed some incoherent threat. Unable to speak intelligibly. Still, I get to eat warm food my son made for me, and sleep under warm covers my son arranged for me, because I had four sons. You have to have at least four sons. Oh Mi-suk, her son's wife, was the one who cooked the warm food and laid out the warm covers for her, not her son. But Ko Bong-sun had a habit of saying so anyway. Easygoing considering the life she'd had, and relatively caring toward her daughter-in-law compared to other mother-in-law of her generation, should say from the bottom of her heart, for her daughter-in-law's sake, you should have a son. You must have a son. You must have at least two sons. Easygoing consideration. the life she'd had, and relatively caring toward her daughter-in-law compared to other mothers-in-law of her generation. She would say from bottom of her heart, for her daughter-in-law's sake, you should have a son, you must have a son, you must have at least 2 sons. When Kim Jiyoung was born, Oh Mi-suk held the infant in her arms and wept. I'm sorry, mother, she said, hanging her head. Ko Bun-sun said warmly to her mother-in-law. Ko Bun-sun said warmly to her daughter-in-law, it's okay. The second will be a boy. When Kim Jiyoung was born, Oh Mi-suk held the infant in her arms and wept. I'm sorry, little girl, she said, hanging her head. Ko Bun-sun repeatedly warmly to her daughter-in-law, it's okay, the third will be a boy. Oh Mi-suk became pregnant with her 3rd child. Less than a year later, Jiyoung was born. One night, she dreamed that a tiger the size of a house came knocking down the front door and jumping into her lap. She was sure it was a boy, but the old lady obstetrician physician or surgeon qualified to practice in obstetrics. Obstetrician who delivered Eun-young and Ji-young scanned her lower belly. Humans, other animals responded several times with a grim look. Unvisiting, lacking genuine mirth, black, depressing, worrying to consider. Look on her face and said cautiously, the baby is so pretty, like her sisters. Back at home, Oh Mi-suk wept and threw up everything she'd eaten that day, while Ko Bun-sun heard her daughter-in-law retching make a sound and movement of vomit. Retching in the bathroom and sent her congratulations through the door. Your morning sickness is awful this time. Your morning sickness is awful this time. You never got sick once when you're pregnant with Eun-young and Ji-young. This one must be different. Reluctant to leave the bathroom, Oh Mi-suk locked herself in to cry and throw up some more. Late that night, after the girls had gone to sleep, Oh Mi-suk asked her husband, who was tossing and turning, what if the baby's another girl? What would you do, Daddy? She was hoping for, what do you mean? What would I do? Boy or girl? We'll raise it with love. But there was no answer. She prodded. Poke with a finger, foot, or pointed object. Prod. What would you do, Daddy? He rolled over to face the wall and said, hush and go to sleep. Don't give the devil ideas. No. Oh Mi-suk cried all night into her pillow, beating her lower lip so as not to make a sound. Morning came to find her pillow soaked, and her lip so badly swollen that she couldn't stop herself from drooling. drooling. Drop saliva uncontrollably from the mouth. Begin drool, then to cough. Make excessive and obvious show of pressure and desire. Saliva falling from the mouth. Drooling or slobbering. Outside the mouth. Swollen that she couldn't stop herself from drooling. This was a time when the government had implemented birth control policies called family planning to keep population growth under control. Abortion due to medical problems had been legal for 10 years at that point. Abortion due to medical problems had been legal for 10 years at that point, and checking the sex of the fetus and aborting females was common practice, as if daughter was a medical problem. This went on throughout the 1980s and in the early 1990s. The very height of male to female ratio imbalance, when the ratio for the third child and beyond was over 2-1. Oh Mi-suk went to the clinic by herself and erased Jiyoung's younger sister. None of it was her fault, but all the responsibility fell on her, and no family was around to comfort her through her harrowing physical and emotional pain. Harrowing, acutely distressing. The doctor held Oh Mi-suk's hand as she howled like an animal that had lost its young to a beast and said, "I'm sorry for your loss." Thanks to the old lady doctor's words, Oh Mi-suk was able to avoid losing her mind. It was years before Oh Mi-suk fell pregnant again, and the boy made it safely into this world. That boy is the brother 5 years younger than Jiyoung. The doctor held Oh Mi-suk's hand as she howled long, loud, awful cry until by animals such as dog and wolf, like an animal that had lost its young to a beast and said, "I'm sorry for your loss." Thanks to the old lady doctor's words, Oh Mi-suk was able to avoid losing her mind. It was years before Oh Mi-suk fell pregnant again. Fell pregnant. Got pregnant. Fell pregnant. Again, and the boy made it safely into this world. That boy is the brother 5 years younger than Jiyoung. Being a civil servant, Jiyoung's father had a stable job and a steady income, but it was certainly a challenge for a family of 6 to live on the wages of a low-level government employee. But it was certainly a challenge for a family of 6 to live on. The wages of a low-level government employee. As 3 children grew, the 2-bedroom house started to feel crowded, and Jiyoung's mother wanted to move to a bigger place where she could give the girls who were sharing with their grandmother at the time their own room. Mother did not commute to a job like father did. Mother did not commute to a job. Commute to a job like father did, but was always doing odd jobs on the side that allow her to make money while doing chores all on her own and looking after 3 children and an elderly mother-in-law. This was common among mothers in the neighborhood who were more or less in the same situation. There was a boom in maid-for-housewife jobs. There was a boom in maid-for-housewife jobs. Maid-for-housewife jobs. Maid. All with the label 아줌마 or middle-aged married woman, insurance 아줌마, milk and Yakult 아줌마, cosmetic 아줌마, and so on. Most companies outsourced their hiring, leaving the employees to their own devices if there were disputes or injuries on the job. Most companies outsourced their hiring, leaving the employees to their own devices, if there were disputes or injuries on the job. Disputes, disagreement, argument, debate. With 3 children to look after, mother chose sideline work she could do from home. Taking out stitches, assembling cardboard boxes, folding envelopes, peeling garlic and rolling weather strips. What is rolling weather strips? Were just a few of the endless list of jobs available. Jiyoung helped her mother, usually with the cleanup afterward or counting units. The trickiest job was rolling weather strips. Long, narrow pieces of spongy material with film protected adhesive, able to stick fast to surface or sticky. Adhesive on one side would arrive at the house, and it was mother's job to roll the strips up two at a time and pull them in a small plastic wrapper. Mother held each weather strip lightly between her left thumb and index finger, as if to simply keep it in place, and rolled with the right hand, pulling and rolling the weather strips. She often cut her finger on the paper film on the adhesive side. Weather strip. Weather strip. Korean. Weather strip. 틈막에 붕치 strip weather strip. Okay. Long narrow pieces of sponge material with film protected adhesive. Adhesive. On one side, it arrived at the house, and it was mother's job to roll the strips up two at a time and put them in a small plastic wrapper. Mother held each weather strip lightly between her left thumb and index finger, as if to simply keep it in place, and rolled with the right hand. Pulling and rolling the weather strips, she often cut her finger on the paper film on the adhesive side. She wore 2 layers of work gloves, but her finger always bled anyway. The material took up a lot of space. The work produced a great deal of debris. And the fumes from the sponge and adhesive gave her a headache. Fumes. Gas, smoke, or vapor. Fume. But the pay was the best among all the odd jobs. Mother kept taking on more and worked longer hours. Father would often come home from work to find mother still rolling weather strips. Jiyoung and Eunyoung, in elementary school at the time, sat in the living room with their mother, variously doing homework, goofing around, spend time idly, foolish, goofing around, and helping her and their baby brother enjoy themselves ripping up pieces of sponge and wrapping plastic. On days when she had too much work, the family would push the pile of weather strips aside and had dinner next to it. One day, Father came home from the office later than usual to find his young children still rolling around in weather strips and complained for the first time, "Do you really have to leave this smelly, dusty stuff around the children?" Her busy hands and shoulders suddenly stopped. She crawled around, putting away the wrapped weather strips in boxes, and Father knelt down next to her to sweep sponge and pieces of paper into a large plastic bag. Knelt, past and past particle of kneel. Kneel.
Kneel. Kneel.
Father kneeled down next to her to sweep sponge and pieces of paper into a large plastic bag. "I wish I could give you an easier life. I'm sorry," he said, and let out a heavy sigh. A huge shadow seemed to balloon over him and fade away. "I wish I could give you an easier life. I'm sorry," he said, and let out a heavy sigh. A huge shadow seemed to balloon over him and fade away. Mother lived in stacked boxes bigger than herself in the living room and swept the floor next to Father. "You are not giving me a hard life, Daddy," she said. "We are working hard together to make it, so stop feeling sorry for yourself as if our home is your responsibility alone." We are working hard together to make it, so stop feeling sorry for yourself as if our home is your responsibility alone. No one is asking you to, and frankly, you are not doing it on your own," Mother retorted coldly. Retort. Heat in a retort in order to separate impurity. Retort. 수업 Retort. Say something in answer to remark or accusation, typically in a sharp, angry, or witty turn back on the person should use against them. Repay. Retort. Reporting verb. Say something in answer to remark or accusation, typically in a sharp, angry, or incisive manner.
Incisive. Incisive.
Incisive manner. Incisive comment. Incisive criticism. Incisive analysis. Incisive performance. You use incisive to describe a person, their thoughts, or their speech when you approve of their ability to think and express their ideas clearly, briefly, and forcefully. incisive bone. Incisive. Okay. Mother retorted coldly, but she quit the weather strip job right away. The van driver who delivered the weather strips was sorry to hear it. She was the best and the fattest worker. It's just as well, said the van driver. Your talents are too good to waste on weather strips. You should get into arts and crafts. I think you'll be good at it. She waved him off, saying she was too old to learn new things. She was 35 at the time. The van driver's words seemed to have made an impression on Mother. Made an impression. Mother, who left Young Eun-young in charge of the even younger Jiyoung, and the youngest in the care of his grandmother, and enrolled on a course. It wasn't arts and crafts, but hairdressing. She didn't even bother with licenses. You don't need a license to cut hair, she said. As soon as she picked up a few simple skills, how to cut and perm hair, she started making cheap house calls for children and the elderly around the neighborhood. Word spread. Mother was indeed talented and had natural business savvy. She was obvious too. After their perms, old ladies got a simple makeover using Mother's eyeliner and lipstick, and she threw in a quick trim for the younger sibling or the mother after cutting a child's hair. She found out what product they used at the neighborhood hair salon and used something slightly more expensive on purpose. She would read the label on the bottle to the old ladies, pointing to each word in the copy. See here? New. Irritation-free formula with ginseng extract. I've never had a single piece of ginseng in my life, but I'm treating your hair with it. Mother saved every last bit of cash she made and didn't pay any tax on it. Mother saved every last bit of cash she made and didn't pay any tax on it. The neighborhood hair salon lady did try to pull out a chunk of her hair for stealing her customers, but Mother was a local with a well-cultivated reputation. The customers took her side. Cultivated, refined, and well-educated. The customer base was eventually divided up organically, and the salon and Mother were able to keep their businesses going without getting in each other's way. Okay.